One second.
Today.
I mean, you're not audible, sir.
And
I think just one second. There was an audio problem. Let me just get over the things once again, sir. I think there has been a lot of audio problem. Just one second. So, good morning, everyone. Just to practically welcome you again. There was some audio problem initially what we faced, and today we are being discussing about the topic of preparation to the post-COVID assumption of educational institutions, and this webinar is being organized with IOD and Atal Bihari Vajpayee Vishwavidyalaya, Chhattisgarh. And we have very eminent panelists who are there going to discuss this very pertinent topic. We have Dr. Arvind Kumar Sharma, he's the Executive President IOED. And along with Dr. Sharma, we have Dr. H. Purushottam, he is a CMD NRDC. We have General Asthana, he is the Chief Instructor at USI of India. We have Dr. Brigadier Verghese Abraham, he is the Dean, Hyderabad Institute of Technology and Management, HITAM, and former VC OU Indore and SVU UP. We have Professor GD Sharma, he is a Vice Chancellor at Atal Bihari Vajpayee Vishwavidyalaya, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. We have, in addition, we have Dr. Jagannath Patnaik, he is the VC at ICFAI Sikkim, and Dr. Sudhir Gawane, he is a VC MGMU Maharashtra. And we're going to be talking on the topic of the education sector, which is so very important for us right now, and how do we take it further. And what we are practically trying to say is that we want to bring in those very points which are so very important for all the educationists who are there. And as we all know that, the COVID pandemic has forced a massive education experiment for all of us. Nearly all teaching and learning in India through higher education has shifted online in the space of a very few weeks for an indefinite period of time. The coronavirus has given us an opportunity to optimize, and as different sectors begin to grapple with the long-term ramifications of the current crisis, the possibility of enhancing and diversifying workforce skills through remote learning options remain a stabilizing constant. The need for more robust and coordinated effort is greater than ever now. Online education has shown to be our resilient system. There is no substitute now for it. So those being the background of what we are trying to see, and what we are seeing is that the COVID-19 still will pass, the virus will recede, but how we are going to be looking the situation after the virus goes off. Okay, it has actually posed a lot of opportunities after the danger of COVID-19 has passed, right? And how will the universities and colleges worldwide respond to the residues? With this as a broad, platform for the discussion, I will now request Dr. Arvind Sharma to come and give his opening remarks. Dr. Arvind Sharma is the Executive President of IOED. Dr. Sharma.
Good morning, dignitaries, and all my young friends from various colleges. Firstly, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the whole team who has been working hard for arranging this wonderful webinar. Thank you, Colonel Inderjit Singh Bararaji, for moderating this session, and other panelists for accepting the invitation and taking out time from their busy schedule. The maiden webinar of the IOD was on virtual education. Today, webinar which is the IOD has organized in association with the Atal Bihari Vajpayee University, Chhattisgarh, will bring light on preparation to post-COVID assumption of educational institutions. I wish all the luck, everyone, and looking forward for wonderful discussions during this webinar. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, sir. So, thank you for your opening remarks, sir. And I will initially request Dr. Abraham to come up with the viewpoints of how we are going to be post-pandemic. What are the kind of situations which we are anticipating? How are we looking at the challenges and the issues which are going to come up? So I'll request Brigadier Abraham to share his views on this particular thing. I'll share the slides. Just one second, sir.
Thank you, Indrajit. Very good morning to all the viewers. It's a great thing that we know the many challenges which has there in while we are resumption of the higher education institutions. If you go over it, we know that there are some visible ones, invisible ones, and these challenges. I just tabulated it. Can I have the next slide? I just tabulated it to know that this visible one is that we know how to react, whether it is facility in an operational readiness, social distancing, supply chain, travel restrictions, communication and change of management, personal hygiene, student and strength. These all things, directly we can plan something in institutions one by one. I will go over, rather than this, I will come back the invisible one in detail. Next slide. If at all you see that there are something soft services. Other than there are earlier slide we have seen that hard services. Virtually we have this. This soft services is the thing. It's basically we don't know what is the standard of achievement. If it was physical distance, we know that we are away from one person, so this much distance. Whereas we come to the soft services and the cleaning and disinfections. Prior to this entry to the institutions, from their own nook and corner, wherever the things, it is regarded, and similarly is the particular process and the planning. So the cleaning of specified areas, nook and corners is basically the things which is required. It is invisible. The quantity and the quality of this one is the challenge. Nowadays, we are supposed to use some of the personal protection equipments, and subsequently after the use of it, disposal is a great challenge will be this. Yeah, that same. If you come into the all system of institutions, whether the housekeeping and its tools also do have to be sanitized. That is basically the thing. And it has to be a proper schedule to be done so that we are going to invite many lives into our institutions. And as you know, the students, they cannot of higher education. They normally go back to the cafeteria because they get up and the long hours of studies. And the transport operation itself is what is supposed to be done for a particular amount of seats. It has to be aft, and the 3-seater can only accommodate 2 seats. And subsequently, what all in the balance, what all things they should carry to the institutions is another guidelines to be given to each person, including the food items, everything is to be there. Similarly, whether it's whatever things, whether it is mail or whatever things is coming externally to institutions, and also to be there. Coming back to the horticulture, it is a need of any institutions to keep your environment clean. It's mandatory that including those who are working with us should be able to be very cautious. Can I have the next slide?
Yes, sir.
If you, when you say that, if it was something, these are the requirements, the precautions which you are supposed to do it. Whereas, if you see the physical protection, whereas these all things are self-explanatory, whether it is personal hygiene, general food and safety advices, what normally the students have got a very good habit of sharing their food, taking their foods to the classrooms, and this all things we know because it's very students' tendencies is that whatever you say they will do in a hidden state. that similarly said the mask, what is the work, how much time there is, what type of mask to be used, how many days they can use, is it rewashable? Similarly, this is. And the more important thing, your first aid was the normal day-to-day operation is different from what is the first aid required for the processing institution. We can make SOPs of processing guidelines and facilities at different levels of the task team. We can this. Here we are to mention this. You might have heard of quick reaction teams. Similarly, it is mandatory for institutions, local crisis management team for any eventuality. It's also called as local incident response team. It's mandatory for to be formulated in this travel and health declaration process. You know it. If at all you come to the office procedures, whether each person's to be temperature screening and any other security measures to be careful in each entry, whether it is visitors or contractors or any external agencies coming into us through the safety tunnel and whatever the safety things which we can make it efficacy. Same is material which is movement in and out also should be equally sanitized before put into use. And this maintains social distances at each level is a difficult thing in a school system. This basically the expectation from a student, whatever you say, the moment you go out, the student psyche is a different thing, whatever irrespective of their age and this. Can I have the next slide? Finally, coming that the most difficult problem is invisible challenges. Invisible challenges, you know that student psyche, the childishness come irrespective of the age, arguing with all the policies, always they look forward for playing each other, sharing everything, including this. And also, they are healthy carriers of the virus. They may not be attacked by the virus. They are not may not have the symptoms, but they are the healthy carriers of viruses. So it is basically that. Subsequently, we have to know that they are immunizations. How does it happen? What are the chemical sanitizers which is healthy and unhealthy? You might have seen now this n number of reports moving around that this chemical is harmful for particular things not to be used, this to be used. Any chemical, if you name it, all centers are unhealthy for the human being. Basically, I am worried about the faculties, aged faculties, and also whose immunization system is very bad. And if at all healthy carriers like this in around, the protection of these faculties is very much this. I can understand. Now we are going to open the institutions for the final semester exams. The classroom seating is where the total number of seats for the examination has to be distanced. Only one bench can maximum can already 2 students, so that the exam requirement itself is very high. And finally is the disposal systems. How we can dispose all the sanitizers, all the disposable and everything is a basic thing which is to be the same. It's not given. How much you can check, how many times you can check, you should not get tired of this. This is the normal system in which institutions can be ready for open. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for wonderful points which you made. And those are very important. I think what we are trying to see is, now this is a time when we have to take a new call to the complete thing, and we have to discuss on something different from what we have been doing, as a routine. And that is where we have to be like more important to think of out of the box solution as to how we are going to be looking in from the education perspective and how it's going to take place. And I'll request Dr. Arvind Sharma now to give his view of that how will the pandemic alter the future of teaching and learning. Dr. Sharma, Arvind Sharma, please.
Yeah. Classroom teaching will shift to virtual space. Time-saving related obstructions can give educators to rethink to develop the online teaching and learning process to students. COVID-19 changed the kill-duster mode of traditional teaching learning to ICT-based learning teaching. It provoked to teachers to be a techno-friendly. It is essential for the students to be more attentive and self-responsible for their studies. The teaching and learning system will be more of virtual classrooms and ICT based in addition to the offline methods. Online based education, technology oriented education create new goals and challenge and skill development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And General Sana, your viewpoint, sir?
Okay. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. And I must say that Dr. Ibrahim has very well given out as to how an executor is challenged and how he is going to execute in various institutes the education as we move on during COVID-19 and perhaps a little later thereafter COVID-19. But I'll touch upon more on the governance issues because there are very major challenges, and therefore I will look at macro issues to a great extent. Today, as we speak, more than 54 lakh people are affected and 3.5 lakh people have died in the world. Approximately 1.26 billion people, that is billion students, their education has been disrupted, and out of that almost 30 million students are there in India. So India education is much more disrupted because of COVID in comparison to anybody else, and the reason is very simple. We do not have the luxury of computers with everybody, and therefore the transition to ICT education was very difficult for us. The country was not that well prepared for this transition. But the fact is, the way we are transforming, the speed of the transformation is much more than what it would have been under normal circumstances, and it will not be too optimistic to say that what we would have achieved in next 4 to 5 years, perhaps we would be achieving in next 6 to 7 months as far as the transformation to ICT education is concerned. Second point I want to make out is that we have approximately 248 million children going to school and 148 million children in higher education. This gives the magnitude of challenge, and this also gives the magnitude of the kind of infrastructure which is required in the country to manage this kind of education as we transform. So therefore, it's not all that easy. Although in 11th 5-year plan, there was a talk of national mission education through ICT. And in that, slowly and slowly, we have something called as Swayam Prabha, which has got almost 1950 courses running, which is freely available in the country. Now, this module is available on televisions, and as I had mentioned last time also, that we have different set of students, and therefore the educationists and the educational institutes have to deal with that in that manner. We have people who have got computers, so for them ICT model will work. We have people who don't have computers but mobile, so obviously mobile apps are going to work. We have televisions with much more number of students, so for them a different model will work. And then we have a fair amount of people who don't have anything. But most important thing is, whenever we change, the biggest thing in change is to get the old idea out, to get the new idea in the minds and psyche of people. And therefore we were very much used to the physical way of conducting education, and from there The transformation requires preparation of the institutes, a number of points which have been covered by Brigadier Ibrahim. We also need the sound electronic bandwidth. We also need the contents being produced as per the syllabus. Today, a lot of modules exist. Even Swayam Prabha may be giving a hell of a lot of things. But the question is it meeting the requirement of the syllabus? The answer is no, because it was not structured because of accordingly. Then we have another problem in India, that we have a lot of variations in terms of language and religion and things like that. So therefore, the education is not purely in English or purely in Hindi. So there a fair amount of education is in regional languages. So how do we take that challenge on? The good point is that if you compare the cost of internet in the entire world, India is one of the cheapest. But then we have to make the best of it. Being cheapest is not giving us enough bandwidth. We are still on 4G and we are still do not have the fiber optics everywhere. So therefore, there is a problem. Then there are certain practical problems which I will add on to what was told by the other panelists. Like the online assessment is quite difficult. The laboratory, all the education which are supposed to be laboratory based, now that is a major problem, because obviously you can't have the labs, and that is something which is physical education. Then today 96% of the population faces the connectivity issues. Then comes the teachers psych and teachers training, which I think has already been touched upon. And then the institutions hand holding by the government, because all this transformation requires money. It also requires facilities, and therefore the government also needs to get into that. And certainly all are not private institutes. All institutes do not make enough money, and education certainly is not a money making profession, because it's a passion and not a profession, as I call it. So therefore there is a need for capacity building, and for that capacity building, it's not only the government, the corporate sector, and the public at large, the parents by themselves. I think everybody will have to join hands to ensure that the institutions can do capacity building, and thereafter a quality education can be given to the people. And when I said a large amount of students don't have anything, so obviously the reach to the community centers, the reach to the facilities in the community centers, that will also have to be ensured. And in ensuring that, another challenge which will come in, what was flagged on the slides, the social distancing, and then the administrative aspects which were very clearly given out, which I need not repeat. So these are some of the challenges which I am sure it is said that need is the mother of invention. So when there is a need, the innovations and inventions follow, and I think that is what is going to prompt us and going to expedite our transformation into the ICT education. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir. So it's a very nicely, sir, you brought out the points, and I will request Dr. GD Sharma, VC, with us. He's from ABVB, and to give his viewpoint on this, sir. Your point of view, sir, Dr. Sharma. If you can unmute yourself and say a couple of words. Okay, no issues, sir. I think there is a problem with the audio of Dr. Sharma. So, you know, what has happened is that there are challenges in creating, maintaining, and improving the distance learning, because this is a new normal for us, and demand for distance learning has skyrocketed, right? And we are seeing everybody moving on to different platforms and different portals which have come up for the remote education. That's a new normal what we are seeing, and moving from the classrooms to home at this magnitude and this scale, and in such a hurry, it actually poses a enormous challenges, both human and technical. So, what are your views on how do we rearrange the existing process? How are we taking it further? So, I'll first request Dr. Arvind Sharma to give his viewpoints on this. Dr. Arvind Sharma.
Sir, online teaching and experimenting with new teaching methods can be seen as an option or alternative methods for getting more knowledge. The educators should convert classroom teaching to online teaching and learning process. The existing process of teaching should adapt to the need of the hour and without causing loss to the student's academic career. Focus on online visual, audio, and interactive sessions. Thank you.
Right. And your viewpoints on this, how do we rearrange the complete thing, Dr. Abraham? Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Abraham,
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the questions. I visualize this program in 4 levels. Whenever this is, there should be a mitigation plan. And it is this, yes, it is a great challenge. It is our mitigation plan efforts to reduce the effects and the risk. Secondly, the preparation plans. It should be so meticulously run over and over so that we can't take a chance of this full students coming. And we should be able to have the response team as fast as possible in the things. Basically, keeping in view of the number of students of the thing, it is mandatory to have a split team efforts may approach. Split team approach is can be divided into team A, B, C, whatever it is. One A team is attending the class, school, college. Team B should be either afternoon, shift-wise morning or afternoon, and the third one should be at home. So that a split team system is a mandatory thing. Then only we will be able to have all this preparedness and responses, which is whatever the safety measures which is this has to be done through a split team appearance. This is my view in which we will be able to arrange this. But however, including this, I said that the rearrange, we cannot change the infrastructure overnight. It is whatever infrastructure and facilities available to us has to be shared, keeping in view of the strength in different stages, shift, and split decision. This is my view regarding the rearrangement. Thank you, sir.
Right, sir. And General Assan, sir, and your viewpoints, because you brought in a point of we don't have the technology when it comes to rural India, and we are very badly hit if you look at it in the overall chunk of 1.3 to 1.5 billion students and youth across the globe who are affected by this colleges and university closures, and it's really impacting us in a big way. So what are your viewpoints, and how do we rearrange the complete process to take it further, sir?
Firstly, as far as our country is concerned, we have to develop the ecosystem. And in developing the ecosystem, certainly the virtual classrooms and all the tools which are available to us, they will have to be made full use of. Now, when the question which you asked me, that for the people who are poverty stricken and who do not have such kind of facilities, we have kiosks being created in all the villages. Now, in these kiosks, we have the television facilities, we have the communication facilities, and we also have the computers now. The government will have to go ahead wherever the computers are not there, those computers will have to be given. And thereafter, this Swayam Prabha, the ICT education, which the ministry is propagating, I think that will have to be done. Similarly, I am given to understand that the IIT team, there are certain teams which have been tasked to work out the methodology as to how they can reach out to the villages. I'm sure they are going to come out with some very good ideas. Then we also need, I'll give you an example of how I am conducting courses for the military officers who are on line of actual control or line of control. Now they do not have access to the internet, but we do the correspondence course in a manner that we issue the material in transit. Now that material reaches them through the emails. Emails reach their bases, and thereafter it is transmitted through the military line to them.
Right, sir.
And then once it reaches them, thereafter they are supposed to answer. Now those answer PDFs are supposed to come again the same route. And once those PDF comes, and then at some point of time we have these contact sessions like the ones which we are having, and thereafter in that we do the doubt clearing sessions. So with those doubt clearing sessions, a fair amount of things get clarified. So, but this kind of model can work for senior students, maybe perhaps the graduation or post graduation level, can't be for the junior ones. But even for the junior ones, I can see, like my granddaughter class 2, they also have education on Zoom, and the mother sits with the child, and the teacher gives them the things what is to be done for that particular day. It is
Right.
explained to the mother and parent as well, and then
Right.
they are supposed to do it, and then they are supposed to show it on computer that this is what we have done.
Right.
So the innovations, there is no limit to innovation, but I think similarly for every problem as it appears, because the condition of every institution, condition of every school is not the same, and therefore the problems also cannot be the same, and therefore the innovations will have to be different. So perhaps
Okay.
everybody will have to apply his mind to do that.
Right. No, that's very important, sir. And it's at this point in time, the kids are learning the new way of education. And so one point which always strikes, with students being able to gain access to knowledge, and there's knowledge in plenty, and even learn, many of technical skills through a few clicks on their phone. So the knowledge is there. The technology-wise, there's all the plethora of information which is all there on the tablets, the computer, and we will need to redefine the role of teacher in the classroom of tomorrow. That's going to be a big challenge. And this may mean that the role of teachers will need to move forward, facilitating young people development as contributing an employable member of society rather than just giving them the lectures. Because you see, it's going to be a problem is that the knowledge wise, the technology wise, the reskilling of the academia, the teachers becomes so very important. So how are we looking at that kind of challenges which are going to come up in due course of time? Dr. Abraham, sir.
Thank you, sir. Basically, what General Asthana has told, all educational institutions of higher education can be normally grouped into 4 levels, keeping in view of the digital imbalance. And then bottommost, the institutions who have deferred the educational activities for the lack of preparedness for virtual class. If you go ahead, the number 2 institutions level is they have what Asthana sir has told, uploaded the videos in YouTube, etc., and assignments have been taken through emails. The level 3 is using the learning management systems, LMS, using Moodle, Google Classrooms, conferencing tools, Skype, Zoom, anything you name it, and including the assessment tool like quiz test, peer evaluation tool, etc. They are using the level 3. Whereas the topmost which you are mentioning is the level 4, in which the classes as per timetable in synchronous with the online mode, aided with all the LMS with high functionality of tools has been only been done. In the present scenario, if at all have you have a look of it, we have almost every higher education system, a semester has ended. We are only looking forward for the examination point of view. Whether it is normally all the institutions have started evaluating online their projects. Every semester will have some projects. Project evaluation has already been carried out. We do normally have the mid exams. Online we have carried out through, there are a number of tools. What our institution is using is Edmodo tools, in which all this thing can be at a day. So we have, don't view this pandemic as a disaster to us. This was a great step for us to learn something new. We have done it. That is the greatest things, the challenges we have taken, and we have achieved something. This is my view regarding that. We are not a loser by this pandemic. We are a gainer by this. That's what is a stepping stone to our success. Thank you, sir.
Right, sir. And General Asthana, sir, your viewpoint on this particular aspect of it, sir? Able to
I would
hear, so I think I'll request Professor G.D. Sharma also to join in. I think we had a problem with his audio earlier. He's on the audio. Sir, Dr. Sir, your viewpoint, sir?
Hello, can you hear?
Sharma, sir. Yeah, we can hear you, sir. And if you can switch the camera, that will be really great. We'll be honored that way, sir.
Actually, I have connected with this smartphone, but the video is not coming.
Not an issue, sir. I think we were having the problem with your audio earlier. So I think that will be great. At least your viewpoints on this particular point, sir.
Actually, as this pandemic is continuing, and most of the students, teachers, and staff, and also the institutions, they are not sure that how long this session will continue. And because most of our institutions are having face-to-face teaching learning, so this cessation of face-to-face teaching and learning in higher educational institutions has left all the students and teachers and institutes in uncertainty, without knowing that how long it will continue. So
Right.
the learning continuity and is discontinued, and daily life cost has increased. Particularly, it has caused financial burden, and it has created a new demand on virtual teaching activity. So
Okay.
many institutions have started this teaching through online, but because of the lack of infrastructure in rural India, most of the students are out of reach. The teachers are also having great impact of this pandemic significantly at their workplace, both academically as well as professionally, because their research activities are impeded, and also all the higher educational institutions may not have a strategy for the continuity of the teaching, except few. Similarly, the non-teaching staff, there is pressure on curtailment due to financial burden, especially in small and private universities. And those who are on contract, whether teachers or non-teaching, they may be terminated if it continues for long. And face-to-face teaching, which has been in cessation all over the world, it has also disrupted the functioning of higher educational institutions especially on the mental health, academic activities, and financial activities. And this long-term cessation, if it continues, then it will affect the next academic year, and ultimately it will demand to shorten the academic calendar year. And there may be cut in budget in higher education, resulting in financial crisis. So in terms of policy responses, country may lead to the administrative measures to safeguard the operation of the system, financial resources, and also the provision of resources to continue training activities. Another area of concern will be health front, both psychological, mental health of students, teachers, and adjustment of academic calendar, research and development activities to mitigate pandemic and to generate continuity in teaching activity,
Right.
maybe through online, bibliographic methods, technological resources, and also socio-emotional support to university community. Therefore, there is a need of review to current regulatory framework, which is required to create a policy matters both for government, MHRD and UGC to ensure structural measures, time preparation also, even if lockdown is over, for face-to-face teaching and redesigning of teaching and pedagogy for learning. Therefore, government and higher educational institutions, they have to plan a strategy.
Right.
From government side, help of higher educational institutions in terms of more financial as well as in their social recovery, for forging national consciousness, for making a strategy to foster recovery and innovation in higher educational institutions, to provide clear regulatory policies when reopening of classrooms, and also to generate security in the mind, and also to commit national international cooperation, which has been disrupted. For higher educational institutions, they also have to anticipate a long-term cessation if it is there continues, and they have to focus efforts on ensuring technology, use of better technology and cheaper technology for teaching continuity, and guaranteeing equity, generating a new governance mechanism, monitoring and efficient support, redesign pedagogical measures to evaluate training and generate mechanism to support learning for disadvantageous groups of students. Also to document new pedagogical changes, because the technology has to be where their teachers can prepare their videos and make small groups of interactions, and also introduce in their inputs, that is students' feedback. Scale up digitization, it has to increase now, and also use of hybridization in teaching and learning system with the technology, for making it ubiquitous so that it can reach to the rural areas. And government has to also enhance the infrastructure in this way. Promote of the internal assessment more now on the renewal of teaching and learning. so that the students' learning is assessed continuously. They need not to depend more on end semester or end year of the examinations. So I am sure that in future, particularly, now there will be a quantum jump in transformation of teaching pedagogy, particularly bringing into the infrastructural changes, both technological as well as physical infrastructure, and also to make teachers and students more toward the technology learning. That means they have to be provided training, and therefore through this training we can also get associated with other institutions. That means more opportunity for cooperation and collaboration, also collaboration with industries for our students, their internship and other things, and also it can provide new opportunities for the collaboration with international institutions. In this way, the lockdown period or corona virus disease, which is pandemic, may be taken as challenges for bringing new things in our technological aspect and enhance the technology. So here there is a need to have more support both from government side, even to including private institutions, so that they can compete and can offer more courses. Recently MHRD and UGC, they have worked and they have also thought of bringing the new regulations so that the students can opt for dual degree program, one through the online or through this distance mode, and another in face-to-face learning, so that there will be more flexibility, and also the students can choose courses both short term as well as long term, and enhance their capability as well as their interest, and they can be more useful or more productive compared to the today's functioning of the teaching learning system. So with this, I am sure that in coming future, some of these things, the new challenge with the new challenges, the quality enhancement and more use of technology is going to come to help the teaching and learning system in higher educational systems. And for this, even training at lower level, at class 10 and 12, need to be provided. Thank you very much.
Right, sir. And in fact, sir, you brought in some of the very important points at the national level, at a strategy level, at a framework level, where you need to really work on it now and give it a new thought process in the complete education policy of the country. So how are we going to address this kind of situation?
Yes, because new education policy is coming up. It is in draft form.
Sir.
Therefore, there should be now feedback taking into account of this pandemic, Corona-19.
Earlier, yeah, because earlier the distant education was one of the norms of the education, but now the virtual education is the new normal, and
Yes.
that is here to practically, everybody is moving on to the virtual education, and it entails both the students as well as the teachers to kind of align themselves to the education system. So that is a new normal, which is now what we are seeing, sir. So that's going to change the complete ecosystem for the students as well.
Exactly,
Yes, sir.
you are right, because you might have seen that UGC is going to allow 100 universities for online courses.
Yes, sir.
Earlier, it was only 5-6 universities which were allowed, and a lot of criterias were there. I think
Yes,
not
sir.
only 100 universities, more universities have to come for this virtual education, and this will also help to enhance our GER in higher education. because with
That's
the
right.
present infrastructure, it takes long time to enhance the GER. And also through this virtual education system, we can reach to unreached people, and therefore equity and disadvantageous people can be taken care of by this technology. But more thing for this technology is the training part, and
That's right.
also the quality of the lectures or quality of the material. So that means the content development and delivery also need to be changed.
That's right. So because it's going to be a totally a different content which has to be there. And sir, while you were on mute, I was trying to ask a question as to, uh, there's a challenge now with the students having a similar kind of access to the technology and the material, and the teacher also having a similar kind of access which is there. So how do we really align that so that the teachers do have an upper edge on the students when they're teaching on the virtual platform?
Certainly. So this will also result into the cost,
That's right.
because to provide the technology, you need some instrumentation, you need infrastructure development of such training, and students also need to be provided the access
You're right.
things. So this will also be involving extra cost,
That's right,
because
sir.
some of the states, they were providing this laptop and the smartphone to students, and but all the states are not providing. So
That's right.
there should not be any technological divide among the students. So
Now the
there
digital
will,
divide, which yes, sir, the digital divide, General Asana practically brought out, and he's been bringing
yes,
out on different forums between the rural part of India and the urban India, where we are finding that's a major challenge what we are facing today, sir.
yes. So I think in this new financial support, which is there for different purposes, recently announced by the Honorable Prime Minister, this part of higher education or education should also be included in that.
Right, sir.
Can
Perfect
I have a
point, sir.
point?
Yes, sir, please, sir.
Yeah, it's might say here's ideally brought it out. What IOED is doing as on today is to propagating our GER of India. India, we all know it. The youth from between the 16 to 25 years is around 35% of our total population. But our GER of India is only 25%, which is half of even China, whereas South Korea is 93%. IOED is by through this of awareness is doing a great job. And another thing which has been brought out very nicely is that blended pedagogy is a mandatory thing. It is mandatory that we have to get into it. And MHRD is doing a very wide and very nice things of dishing out many courses either through Coursera or NPTEL to enhance your skills at wherever time and whatever places you are. That's a great thing which is doing. And final thing which he has mentioned is we got Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, UBA, which is the government is really sincerely brought it, and many of the institutions have adopted many villages to develop through the SWAYAM activity. Many villages have been enhanced by through the skills of living standard and facilitates the educational awareness. These are the great thing in this MHRD and the central government, UGC and ASP is doing as on today, countering this ill effects of COVID-19. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Very relevant point, sir. I'll request now Dr. Purushottam. He's a CMD NRDC, who's also with us, and unfortunately he was not able to join because of his problem of the video and the audio. Sir, I'll request you your points on how the future is going to be as regards to virtual education is concerned. Dr. Purushottam, I'll request you to unmute yourself, sir, and if you can convey your points, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I would like to thank at the outset Dr. Arvind Kumar Sharma ji, the Executive President of IOED, and Dr. Jagannath Patnaik, the Vice Chancellor and ICFI, Sikkim, who is known to me for quite some time now, and all the eminent panel members, particularly Dr. G.D. Sharma. He spoke at length the issues, the challenges, the opportunities. Really is a great talk by you, sir. Really, we got a lot of insights based on your experience. So we are now passing through a great crisis. We are all aware, but we do not know when we will be coming out of this situation. When there will be a situation like post-COVID or not, I am not sure. How long this COVID situation continues, whether a situation like post-COVID comes at all or not, we are not sure. That is the kind of situation we are passing through, but we should prepare to face the situation and come out with a unique solutions for the problems the pandemic is posing before us. As you all know, the current education system is a face-to-face learning, most highly focused on the face-to-face learning outcomes, but we are not really ready with the kind of systems required to implement the digital education, the digital transformation. Our infrastructure is not there like the way we are now facing crisis for the handling the COVID cases. We don't have adequate infrastructure, hospitals in health sector. The same is the case with even in the education sector. As you mentioned, it is a hybrid system, but some good institutions of national eminence, they have some kind of a digital infrastructure, but most of the universities are not equipped with such kind of a digital infrastructure. Even if you have a digital infrastructure, the other challenges like uninterrupted power, the bandwidth, and the smartphones, all these things are again a major challenge for us, particularly for tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural places is a big challenge. Because of this COVID, as per UNESCO statistics, more than 1.2 billion students now are at home because the schools, colleges, universities, from Harvard to IITs, everything has been shut down because of this lockdown. Really, it is a big challenge. Because of this challenges, our students are going to face enormous problems. First of all, there is no clear-cut timeline when they are going to get their degrees. And because of this, their higher education is going to be affected. Many students would like to go abroad for higher education. Because of this COVID situation, all these things have come to standstill. Many job offers which were given by the companies, they may be also now put on hold because of all these things. Really is a very, very big challenge. It is a need for all the intellectuals in the country to come forward, deliberate, to brainstorm, and come out with a good strategies how to address this challenge. I am sure our people, the intellectuals, have got that kind of a capacity to find solutions. Even if you look at the way India has handled the COVID-19 situation, is appreciated by the World Health Organization and many countries. So because of this, India is known for its management skills and management capabilities. I'm sure with all the intellectuals who are working in this domain will be able to find out a suitable solution so that our students will not be affected because of this COVID. As I mentioned to you, every challenge also brings an opportunity. There is a silver line in every cloud, that is what our people say. So what is important is that now, how do we overcome? As Professor Sharma mentioned, there is also need to adapt to bring a new normalcy. Particularly, there is a lot of pressure will be there on the regulatory. The regulator has to come forward and put the rules, regulations to handle this situation, particularly the e-learning, the distant learning, or the digital learning. These are all very, very important. We are only, bulk of our education system is only based on the face-to-face learning. We were not having that kind of a infrastructure to offer digital learning. And because of this lockdown, lot of stress on the parents, lot of stress on the students. as my senior panel members suggested, I think we need to address those issues. Particularly, the parents have to keep the children engaged, and they need to adopt some new way of learning things so that they will keep their knowledge updated and they keep the things happening around the world in this area. And knowledge is power. It's very, very important. Keep themselves updated. So, as I mentioned to you, every crisis brings us a lot of challenges along with its opportunities. Coming to the opportunities, I see because of this COVID-19, a lot of problems have been created across the supply chains, education institutions. It is also a wonderful opportunity for the students to think how to solve those problems. And it brings opportunity for the students to become an entrepreneurs. So earlier entrepreneurship was forced on them, or people who got passion only, they used to venture into it, but now the problems are around us. So every student has got an opportunity to think how to solve that problem. If he's able to solve that problem, it is a wonderful opportunity to start a business venture around it, to start a startup around it. You know, in India, I think after health tech startups, edutech startups are the largest segment. More than 5,000 edutech startups are offering services, and this COVID-19 has also brought out unique opportunity for them, and they are growing at the rate of CAGR around 10 to 12%. That is a great opportunity, and the market size itself is around Indian market for edutech startups is about 50 billion as per the recent studies, and globally,
Right.
of course, is more. Okay, so the
Okay.
students need
Sure.
to identify such kind of an opportunities and take it as a challenge, provide solutions, and apart from their education, they can also become an
Yes, sir.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
This is
So
the point of to leave it at this point. And
I'll come back to your next question, sir. I have also Professor Dr. Sudhir Gavane with us, and due to some technical glitches, we were not able to have him online initially part of the discussion. Sir, welcome, Dr. Gavane, and
Yes.
VC MGMU Maharashtra. Sir, my initial question, which I was trying to get the answer from everyone, was that with the new normal, what's the future of teaching and the learning, sir? So your viewpoint, sir, if you can have that quickly.
See, basically, I am of the opinion now that the world is going towards the Facebook model of education. So, OER, Open Educational Resource, open programs, means knowledge is free, testing by fee. The top quality knowledge is available for free through MOOC programs. All top universities in the world are offering free courses, and at present there are 10,000 such courses offered by multiple universities in the world. So now this will increase phenomenally and exponentially, and because of that, anybody from anywhere at any time can enhance his knowledge, acquire the knowledge without boundaries of discipline. Those boundaries are dismantled, and anybody at any age can pursue any kind of education without any restrictions of admissions. You should possess this graduation degree at this age, and you should have this mathematics background, you should have the Hindi background, or that. Anybody can join, acquire any knowledge from any university. The MIT Boston has come out with a task force, and they have come out with a master's program in supply chain management, wherein 3 semesters programs curriculum can be completed by MOOCs offered by multiple universities, and for the first semester the candidate go to the MIT. It means that we can acquire multiple degrees simultaneously, and now UGC has also come out with that dual degree program. I am pursuing a regular program in a particular university. At the same time, I can pursue a graduation program through online education. So this change is taking the education towards the Facebook model, where you can upload anything, you can write anything, post anything for free. So knowledge is free, testing by fee. That is the mantra of the future.
That's
And
right.
classroom without walls, right? So with Corona and after Corona. So AC after Corona, with Corona, WC. So WC with Corona, without classroom. That is the situation. And after Corona, classroom and WC without classroom. All these things will be there together. And my personal opinion is there will be a bridge kind of thing, blended kind of thing, wherein uh, at present the technology based education, e-learning, I was vice chancellor of the Open University Maharashtra, I know this area, and because of this compulsion of COVID, we have entered into that domain, which is digital learning. Actually it is called as digital learning. So my personal opinion is that in years to come, in next few years, definitely the IT based e-learning was the supplementary, and it is going to become a mainstream education stream, and classroom education will be supplementary. So knowledge everywhere, anytime, to anybody. So a student, a teenager can acquire PhD degree by his R&D at this early age. I
Right.
know one instance that Stanford University, one undergraduate girl at the age of 19, she got patent. The things are going to change. So
That's right.
grassroots researcher, a farmer without any degree can acquire a doctorate degree by his research and patents. This is the future, boundless, boundaryless, and open for all. Democratization of the education is going to happen soon. This is my opinion.
Wonderful. So I think you brought in very relevant points of the Facebook model, classroom without the wall, and then the degrees without any the bases which are there. Even a youngster can get into a PhD degree or get into patents, and that's the new normal what we are actually seeing, and that's what we really align ourselves. But one challenge which we are all facing today, sir, is the
Yeah.
challenges of measuring and validating the learning. Right. So where we had the examinations, which are say semesters or the tri-semesters or the end semesters, and there was a calendar assessment. There were high stakes examinations that determine the admissions and advancement to the new education level and institutions. They're all thrown in disarray when the colleges are closed. This is something different what we are seeing, which we had never seen earlier. Right.
Yeah.
And what practically the thing is that the strategies to postpone, skip or administer examination at a distance, is posing a different kind of challenge now, where you're challenge especially the fairness, especially when the student access the exam boards which are there, and that's another disruption what we are going to face, and the assessments results which are going to come up. It's going to be a new normal what we are going to see. So that way we are going to see lots of different scenarios altogether when it comes to the education sector. And I'll request all the panelists to come on a very quick kind of reply onto this particular question as to how the education examination system is going to really change after the new normal. So I'll request Dr. Sharma, Arvind Sharma first to give his viewpoint, and then we'll move on to the next.
Regular exams.
Your voice is not there, sir, Dr. Sharma.
Irregular exams and online exams not possible in remote and rural areas. We use webinar and offline classes as the world comes to terms with scale and severity of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the health of the world population is rightly taking priority over education sector for the time being. But for today's students, the COVID-19 outbreak means a use of learning time and their careers in future years. The financial crisis will have a significant impact of COVID-19 on the following ways. The loss of education spending for the duration of the crisis, as well as the resulting additional cost and the expected downturn in future financial resources available to education sector. We can revise the syllabi first so that the delayed of the academic session 2021 may be compensating. Technological improvement is immediate requirement of this sector. Government should take steps to lay down the internet services in colleges, even in remote areas. The pandemic has no doubt caused the delays in academic sessions and assessments, but it has a positive impact too, as it has led all the teachers and learners to adopt ICT tools for reaching the new generation learners. Thank you.
Right, sir. And Brigadier Ram, sir, your viewpoint, sir?
Exactly this. Yes, evaluation is a challenge as on today. It can maximum can have any of the credit system which is practically indirectly means an open book system in which the technology in which application should be assessed from the students. That is the only way of getting a system. However, we are adopting to systems in which the students can be given a limited time hours to respond to the any of the, whether it is a model system of getting into the classrooms, sit there, give a limited time for the examination, and evaluating on scheduled time is another system which we are adopting it. However, coming back to that semester end exam, it is mandatory that we may have to adopt the physical way of answering systems at the earliest. However, whatever my predecessor was questioning about the open e-learning system of open college universities, they all have having a questions on examinations, and however the final examination is mandatory that we have to have physical presence and taking the exams. These are the either online or offline to the limitation of hours and in the identity. These are the things which can happen in the years to come.
Right, sir. And General Asthana, sir, your viewpoints on the examination system, sir?
See, let's be practical as well. It's very easy to say that we should have online exam. I mean, that's a very one line easy answer. But the question is, can you actually have on all kinds of online exams, considering the way our country is? So therefore, let me respond in graduated manner. As far as the universities are concerned, the online exams, wherever the computer facilities are available, I think it is possible. And for especially the higher education, I think online exam is possible. Even as I mentioned, I was giving examples of the military officers as well. We are conducting online exams, and our correspondence courses are being conducted online. Similarly, as some of the panelists also brought out, there was a time when the physical education, now that we are transforming from physical education to the online education and the distant learning education. Earlier, distant learning education used to be considered as a not so, shall we say, not so good as compared to the physical education, because physical education students used to get higher priority as far as placements are concerned. But now I think this is going to be a new normal, and therefore there is an online methodology of the testing as well. Now, till the time we reach that stage, till the time we have the capacity building of the institutions as well as the examination conditions and the examination bodies, we will have to go for a hybrid model. At some places online will work, some places online will not work. Secondly, there is another serious problem which so far nobody has spoken about it. That is, there is a fair amount of material available. As I mentioned, the UNESCO has got its hubs, they have got their global centers, they've got their regional centers. Then somebody talked of, and I also talked of the UGC coming out with the model. Then we also talked of the Swayam Prabha model and all those things. But the fact is that you have a syllabus, and your university people have to, your teachers have to actually convert that syllabus into an online module. It has to be a ICT module, it has to be a mobile module, and in that mobile module it has to become a WhatsApp module, because for the student the info overload is also very much there. The moment you go online, the moment you go on internet for the same thing, you get so much of information that you find it very difficult to sift. Now let the teachers be trained to sift, and sift as per the syllabus what is required, because there is a particular course which you are doing and the course has got an employability subsequently. So
Right.
therefore converting that into e-content, converting that syllabus into a e-content, and in a manner that it is transportable to the man who is supposed to receive it, and then he is prepared for that particular content to be able to give exam. That is an exercise which I think the faculty will have to do. So faculty will have to be trained, and faculty will have to perhaps put in a fair amount of effort for doing so. Then we come to the school education. Now school education, again, it will have to be a mixed model, because when it comes to international schools, yes, there is a computer facilities available and children can afford a lot of things, so it may well happen. But when it comes to government schools, it may not happen in that manner. So therefore it will have to be a mixed model, and let's not be pessimistic. Hopefully the things are going to get better. Hopefully maybe after about 2 months, I think we will flatten the curve, and there will be a fair amount of with social distancing. Maybe we may have to hold the same exam in 3 shifts or 4 shifts, or maybe same exam can be held on 2 days, or the examination schedule, if it was supposed to be for 6 days, it can go on to 18 days. But with that social distancing, we may be able to manage that problem of physical exams as well. But as of now, as I see, bulk of the population does not have the kind of facility, especially at the lower level, especially at the government schools level. And therefore, it will have to be a hybrid model. It will have to be a mixed model for the examination. And I think the online exam, wherever possible, where it can be done, and more so the courses which are being conducted online, like courses on the ICT itself, or the IT courses. There are a whole lot of IT courses and the courses on Cisco and things like that. They are, as it is, they were already being online model, and they were being tested online model. So wherever it is feasible, certainly. And as the time progresses, hopefully that is going to become a main module, because it is cost saving. The initial cost is high. The infrastructure establishment is high cost, but subsequently, as we progress towards this, the cost of education is going to finally come down, because as so many panelists have mentioned, that this is a cheaper option, and it is also giving jobs to so many people who are going to prepare these kinds of modules, because that's also going to become an industry by itself. So that's what I think. It's going to be a mixed model. We'll have to balance it out.
Yes, sir, very relevant points you brought in, sir. I'll request Dr. Purushottam to quickly give his viewpoint on this, sir.
Yeah, in my opinion, I would also agree with the observations made by our panel members. I think it is appropriate to have that kind of a mixed model, 50% physical and 50% digital. So in that process, when such kind of emergencies arises, you will be always easy to move to the other mode. So that is why it is very, very important in our curriculum. We should have a mixed model of pedagogy or teaching learning systems, so that such kind of pandemics arises, we will be always having a flexibility and offer the courses totally on the digital platform. The problem is that, again, in the digital platform, as my earlier panel member says, that it requires a lot of a groundwork, the infrastructure, that is the major challenge. Once we are able to put it, it is always a escape route for us in such kind of situations. The second problem is that we should also bring standardization and recognition or accreditation for these degrees what we get through e-learning or digital or distant learning. See, as my earlier panel member mentioned, always in our society, we give much priority, weightage for a face-to-face physical learning. A degree obtained by attending a classroom course is always a weighed much better than a distant learning or e-learning. So there is a need for recognizing those degrees as well. And one of my earlier speaker also mentioned Harvard, MIT, and all. They're doing a lot of courses free of cost. But only when you want to get a certificate, you have to pay and take the examination, pay huge money, and get the certificate. But will those certificates will be valid in our India? So there is a need for a regulatory framework to recognize such kind of open learning degrees also should be accredited with the equivalent to the Indian degrees or the physical degrees. The people who obtain degrees by attending the regular classrooms, so there should be equivalence or accreditation. That is what I mean. Very, very important. So then there will be a lot of push for the digital learning. If you get that kind of a recognition at par with the physical degrees or physical classroom degrees, that gives a credibility and push for pursuing such kind of courses. So these are some of my observations, and I
Right.
thank again the organizers
Sure.
for giving me this opportunity. One point I would like to mention here, at NRDC, ours is a National Research Development Corporation under the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. We also promote a lot of entrepreneurship. We have got a lot of schemes and funds promoting startup companies that could be in the edutech sector also. Not only in NRDC, even AICTE, MHRD, Ministry of Information Technology, both in state governments, UGC, there are a lot of schemes are available for the student community, because I expect a lot of students are also attending this webinar. I would like to send a message to them. Don't look for only the jobs. This COVID-19 has also brought out a lot of opportunities to pursue entrepreneurship as a career. So there are so many problems around us in the educational sector itself. Identify some brilliant ideas, come to us, and many like IOED or NRDC or DST, AICTE, MHRD, Innovation Cell, there are so much ecosystem built up, rather a lot of institutions who are supporting the student edutech startups. Please make use of these opportunities and you become a useful citizens and contribute to the socio-economic development of the nation by way of solving these problems. Thank you very much.
Right, sir. And Dr. Sudhir Gawane, sir, your viewpoint, sir?
Yeah, see, regarding the examination system, we must understand that the conventional mode of examination is outdated. Written examination is not, the written communication is not the only way of judging the merit and intelligence of the student. And this COVID-19 has given us a tremendous opportunity to deploy our mind to identify the measurable intelligence and abilities of the student, competencies of the student. So we are in a digitally driven education, DDE, I call it as. In DDE, you have a digital examination system. And in digital examination system, now because of the technology, I am a student of information communication technology, and let me communicate you that in next 5 years, computers will be 64 times faster than the present. So the mobile phone, the smartphone will be 64 times faster than the present. So real time, everything is happening and the distance is totally eradicated. You are instantaneous with everybody, real time. So because of this, so through the whole world is being called now as a network society. So network society means all 7 billion people in the world are going to be connected with each other through the smartphones. And at present it is 82%, and next 3-4 years it will be 100%. So everybody will be having smartphone in hand, even the labor person also. So with this, you have a network, global network, and you are able to communicate with the whole world. And remember, because of that, the emergence of the new technologies, for example, AI, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence is able to assess the examination paper, not only of multiple choice questions, but the questions, short answers, long answers, essay type answers. It will match and assess without human intervention. Because even when teacher is there, human being is there. I have my students which I love more. There are few students I have some hatred among them, cultural hatred, caste hatred, lot of things are there. So everything will be highly objective and professional because of application of artificial intelligence. And already there are companies here which are offering digital examination system for the descriptive answers too. And through mobile learning will be the mode, and there is a proctor system by which I can monitor vigilance whether that student himself or herself is appearing for the exam or not. And open book system which has been referred by somebody, so that can be used. And why not only written? Why can't there be oral examination? Oral examination is also possible. Why can't we
Right.
take oral examination through mobile? So mobile learning, digital learning, using the low cost tools is possible. And there is a triangle in education system, be it school education or higher education. For school education, robo-based learning, R-learning is there. So robo will be teacher's assistant in the classroom. So it will monitor the mathematical assessment done by the solutions done by the student. It will move in the classroom, and Korean Technology University is already into this and they have implemented this. So adaptability is there. Then affordability, adaptability, affordability, equity, and ubiquitous. It is everywhere available. So because of the democratization of the technologies and because of the democratization of the education, COVID has given impetus, strong impetus to improve our higher education system, make it more workable, make it more democratic, make it available to everybody anywhere in all languages of the world. The domination of the English will go away, run away, because people will create content into their own languages and protect their culture, protect their nation, protect their systems of education. So every new thing is going to happen and emerge. Let us be positive for that. And our teachers, all teachers have to be trained to be a e-teacher. Only then things will move. Students are already in the technology. We teacher have to adapt to that. It is our fault, not of generation fault. So ODL, open and distance learning, is going to be a mainstream. About the quality, people will many respected panel members spoke about the quality. International Council for Distance Education is there. Already they have developed a program of quality assessment of open and distance learning programs. At the same time, the quality of the program will be measured by the skill and knowledge acquired by that student. Now, what I am seeing, all the top multinational companies have entered into education. From LinkedIn to Microsoft to Google, everybody is in education. And if these top companies have entered into education, then that will be a mix of corporate professionalism and the knowledgeism of the higher education system. And this combination, this marriage, I think, will evolve many fruitful children for the betterment of the society.
That's right, sir. I think General Sana wants to add a point to it. So I think you brought in the technology aspect, which was practically in a discussion, but that's really important. General Sana, sir.
Okay, firstly, I fully appreciate whatever my co-panelist has said. And certainly we look at all the things which are coming new with a positive mind. And I'm sure the next generation will look at much more positively than us. And certainly our teachers and faculties has to be trained accordingly. But let's also be practical in some manner, because there are certain difficulties, like how do you conduct a chemical lab exam, the exam which requires a practical of a chemical laboratory. exam which requires physical education, if somebody has chosen a subject like physical education, obviously his exam cannot be held on computers. So there are subjects, but at the same time, notwithstanding that, what my co-panelist has brought out, that is something which is of future. Today, we cannot also ignore that India is housing the maximum poor people in the world. We also cannot ignore that today you are struggling to give meals to the migrant laborers. You forget about their children and their education. So it's not all that easy, but yes, that is the way to go. Whatever has been said, and certainly we will go there because we are a progressive society. And as I mentioned earlier as well, that when the need comes, the innovations also come along with it, and there is a huge opportunity, and therefore I think we will be able to manage as the exams are possible. But
Right.
for the time being, given the existing circumstances, because this transformation cannot take place all of a sudden, and that more so when you are in a lockdown stage. So I was yesterday on a another webinar with the business world, and there we were again gauging changes in some different field, and we were all finding that it's not that easy to change over switch gear so fast. But certainly uh, as I mentioned, what we would have done in last 5 years or next 5 years, perhaps in the same field, in the education field and in the digitized field, we would perhaps achieve in next 8 months what what we would have achieved in next 4 or 5 years. So that is the pace which the COVID-19 will bring into us, and I'm sure that will help us out. And everybody, all the students who are watching, uh, I want to tell all the students certainly that our generation has seen this pandemic towards the end of our last phase of our life. You people are seeing it at the beginning of your life. Certainly, you will come out much stronger than what we were during our time. And you would have gone through much bigger and much tougher experiences than what we would have been. And therefore, you will come out as much better citizens than what we are. You will come out much more innovative manner, and you will perhaps design many more things which we would have never thought.
Right.
So that's all I wanted to say. That. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. I think very thought-provoking points which you have brought in, all of you, sir. And before I take on the questions from the attendees, I'll just ask one question from Dr. Arvind Sharma. Who are the biggest sufferers as per you in the education sector? Because now this education sector is we are talking all futuristic. We are trying to talk how the things are going to move ahead, but there are pitfalls. There are the challenges which we are facing every day. We know what are the challenges. So there will be some sufferers, there will be some gainers. So who, as per you, are going to be the sufferers of the education sector?
Sir, student and teacher both. Students will be biggest sufferer in the education system during present scenario. Obviously, rank of the student is first. The biggest sufferer will be those who don't keep pace with the changing environment and fail to adapt to the change in trends and technologies. Thank you.
Right, sir. I will not just take on the questions which are there. We have plenty of questions, so I will not take it in the sequential manner, which I find the good. I think just pick it up and we'll be discussing. One question which is there from Miss Dr. Pratibha Mishra, she says, how to cope with invisible challenge? So anybody who can answer this?
Yeah. May I answer? May I answer?
Yeah, please, sir, please.
Yeah.
It's open to all the panelists now. They can just the reply.
Dr. Pratibha, thank you for the questions, because see, unpredictability and invisibility is the essence of the technology. And as and when the issues emerge like corona, suddenly, zoonotic diseases we call it as, because of we are killing the nature and we are encroaching the nature, so nature is reacting like this. So the balance has gone. So there are invisible challenges into technological systems also. For that matter, for example, technology haves and technology have nots. As our Major General Sir has rightly said, country like India, not only India, 100 countries in the world are developing countries. Least developed countries are 45. So this population of the world is without technological tools in their hand, without gadgets. So firstly, the respective governments have to reach out to them with the technologies and the gadgets in their hand. Once they get the gadget, they will be familiarized with that. Once we do this, even the government has to take up the mission of providing technological tools to all students in the schools also. So they learn it. So my suggestion to you is, teacher like you, invisible challenges, just identify the technological familiarization of the teacher and the students, number one. Then the student is going to become a global citizen in years to come, right? So if we do not make his mind for being a global citizen, we used to say, think globally, act locally. So that is not only one dimension of the situation. Think globally, act globally. Think locally, act globally. Think locally, act locally. All these dimensions are open now. And for that matter, teacher has to be well read. The teacher has to cross the disciplinary borders. He should arrange marriages with the different opposite disciplines, and students should be allowed to exchange thoughts and their choices, and student-centric programming and designing the program. So we are the facilitators. Students are the takers, customers. The customers will choose their path, the path of learning. So personalized learning is going to become the future. So how you will customize education for the requirement of a particular student, of particular abilities, particular skills, particular socio-economic background, and you have to nurture and design the program according to the abilities and capabilities of that particular student. And this will convert itself into a personalized education mode, and I think that is the real takeaway from this technology.
Right, sir. I think very well answered query, sir, to the query. And there's one question which has come from Aditi Pandey, and she's asking that these channels like Swayam Prabha and others, how many are actually using it? There is a great problem of awareness related to this. So anyone who can would like to answer, sir?
See, can I answer as a university professor and vice chancellor? See, Pandey ma'am, basically we should understand that we were having national mission on education through ICT during the UPA 1, UPA 2. Now the present government under the Modi's leadership, it has come with the Swayam platform. Okay. Now digital channels are being, Swayam Prabha have been launched for every class, one for every class. Consortium of Educational Technology was in existence, it is there. So hundreds and thousands of programs are available, created in India, generated in India and abroad. So what are those programs? Unless and until we teacher know, we educated people know, and survey what is available for free everywhere, ubiquitous, then only our student will come to know. Who will reach out? Through media, through teachers, through educational institutions. If teachers are not knowing National Mission on Education through ICT, if they are not knowing Swayam, if they are not knowing Swayam Prabha, it's not fault of the technology or the government or the infrastructure creators. lot of programs are being offered by Microsoft, Google, and for free. So we should acquire the information and share it with our students, to teachers, and reach out to the public at large, to the parents too.
Right. There's another question from Ritika Mehra. I think how to conduct online examination. General Brigadier Abram, I think you would like to take this question up. Dr. Abram? Okay. General Asthana sir, I think you would like to take this question up.
Yeah, how we are conducting is that we have converted the syllabus into objective type questions. So it is either it's a question bank, and the question comes up at random. There are certain stations where the candidate is supposed to go, and there the moment he logs in, his time starts, and then the questions keep coming from the question bank, and they are either multiple choice or true false kind of questions. So he has to tick, and that's how he gets the answers. We earlier tried some written answers also, but there was little problem because of the subjectivity.
Okay.
But I think this is one of the models which we are following. The models can be innovated, and depending upon the requirement, I think different models can be worked out.
Right. And there's another.
I can supplement this. Barera sir, I can supplement this. For
Yes, sir,
the
please.
descriptive answers, application of artificial intelligence is being deployed now, and solutions are available at present. So the short answers and long answers, despite the multiple choice question as sir has described, they are there in place. But along with that, short and long answers are model answers are provided to the AI technology, and AI will match that answer technologically, instantly, whether it matches 80%, 90%, 100%, 60%. Accordingly, grades are accorded by AI. So blockchain technology, okay, blockchain technology is not only about the cryptocurrency, it is about the data, distributed data. So all these things are going to virtual reality, the augmented reality, the blockchain technology, and the AI are going to be the best available tools and technologies, and there are corporates working in this field. They are ready to assist us, so we should adopt them, we should learn them. Every teacher of ours should learn, understand these technologies. We do not want to become an expert into that, but we should know how to use that, where it is useful. That is what required.
Okay. Another question, sir. This is again by Ritika Mehra. The question was, I think we'll take a quick reply on this from General Asthana. He already covered that. I am Dr. Ritika Mehra from DIT University, and we are conducting all lectures on MS Team, but to conduct practical are not very successful. Need suggestion for conduct of practical classes.
As of now, I think for the practical classes, especially as I mentioned, like physics lab and chemistry lab, it will have to be done physically. The only thing is that social distancing will have to be ensured, and all other precautions which the government of India has been announcing time to time, they will have to be ensured, and you will have to stagger it. Like if the practical time was supposed to be 2 hours, then perhaps it will have to be done in 3 shifts, so that not many people are there in the laboratory. And hopefully, let's not be that pessimistic, as I mentioned earlier also. Hopefully within a month or so, we should flatten out the curve, and we should be able to open the schools and colleges and universities to an extent that at least with 30% or 40% attendance, we should be able to maintain the safety as well as get the practical classes going.
Right. Fantastic, sir. And
Can I supplement to this?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Most welcome.
Sakshat is the platform created through National Mission on Education through ICT, and IITs have developed virtual laboratories, where we can do the experiments in science. Commonwealth of Learning is also offering so many solutions to this. All technological companies are also providing solutions. So virtual lab facilities is one of the way out to find out solution to some disciplines. But as sir has rightly said, for few you have to become in practice practically. You cannot replace the teacher, you cannot replace the ground, you cannot replace the physical laboratories. But at the same time, in a crisis situation like this, in calamity like this, we can find out some solution way outs, and through that we can work. You can give the practical assignment to the student projects and assess
Right.
the project. Project based learning is there, research based learning is there, service based learning is there. So find out the ways, out of box thinking, new ways, new methods to assess the quality, practical ability of the student.
Right. I agree with you on your points, sir. And one last question I'll take before we wind up, because we have a lot of questions. We will reply to them offline in that manner. And the question is that students are becoming full of anxiety and stress. They don't want to listen to teachers and parents how to provide right direction and reducing their stress.
Right.
Okay. I would like, I want to answer this. Firstly, there are a lot of positives which the COVID has. We have to highlight those positives to the children. And if you do so, perhaps this psychological problem will go away. Let me enumerate some of them. Firstly, this is the first time when you found that you were so close to the family. Otherwise, in the busy life of today, parents never used to see the parents to that extent. Secondly, this is the first time you started realizing as to how parents can be teachers, and parents, by virtue of working from home, can devote much more time to the children. This is also the first time when you realized that how less do you want in life, between luxury and the essentiality. The difference between the two, we have been able to at least identify, because so many things which we think was very necessary, and we find that we could live without it. This is also the first time when you started and realizing that you don't need maids and helps and things like that, and there is nothing called as menial jobs. This is the first time when we started realizing that how much these safai walas and the health workers are so important. We also realize that how helpless the so-called the millionaires and billionaires and the topmost strata of the society is when a pandemic like this breaks out, and therefore you learn the humility in a much better way. This is also the time when you realize how you should do things yourself, and if you have to divide the work within the family members, certainly you have to do your own part as well. So there are a lot of takeaways which this COVID-19 has given to us.
That's right.
And let's, I think, enjoy those. And with
And
that positive attitude, it has given us an opportunity to think digitally, to think in the ICT way, and to think in so many ways, which so many panelists have brought out, which we never thought earlier. So I am very sure that we are going to come out much wiser and much stronger after the COVID. And it is also the time when we realized how the climate change can help our world, how a pollution-free Delhi looks like, and how the flora and fauna and also the animals uh, can get balanced out when they are moving in the street and you are locked
Yes,
in the
that's right.
houses.
That's
So
it's a,
there are
yes,
so many,
wonderful, sir.
there are so many takeaways that how the ecological balance takes place. So I think if we analyze all that and if we start exploring our hobbies, I think we can be very much positive and our psychological problems will go away.
I think, sir, with that note, I think we have, it's really wonderful. So many points which have been brought out, so many takeaways from this webinar we have gotten from the human to skills to technology to, the students examination. I think we touched upon all the very relevant points which are very important for the new normal. And this will definitely, be a guiding factor for a lot of academias and the attendees who are there with us, and they will be all benefited by this kind of knowledge. I thank every one of the panelists, especially Dr. Abraham, General Astana, Dr. Purushottam, Dr. Gawane, Dr. G.D. Sharma, and Dr. Arvind Sharma, and not the least, all the attendees who took out the time to be with us and listen to the complete proceedings and so many good discussions. Definitely this will help you all in planning your way ahead, planning the new normal, planning for you yourself, skilling to the next level. Thank you very much and have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Indrajit, how many
Thank
people
you,
attended?
and thank you for the back end as well. Whoever has been working to make it happen, make this event happen. So our great thanks to them as well.
Yeah, Indrajit sir,
Yes,
particularly
sir.
congratulations to you for conducting
Yes.
this. And I was thinking that I am excluded, but you have included me. Thank you. We are going towards the inclusion of everybody into education.
Yes, sir. We
And
always
thank you to all the participants because without participants, actually webinar has got no meaning. So certainly, I think
and we were
every
houseful, sir, till the
participant
last, and we are totally houseful till the last, and it's really wonderful, sir, to the panelists who made this possible with their insights, their experience, and the forethoughts with what they have shared, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you,
Bye bye, sir.
Indrajit.
Have a great day, everyone, and have a great day,
Very
all the
kind of you.
panelists
Thank you, Dr.
and
Sharma.
attendees too. Thank you. Bye
How
bye.
many,
Bye.
how many people attended? How many people attended, Indrajit?
Sir, there are 100+ people who are there live, and there also there who are on the webcast. So there were almost 200+ who are seeing this particular webinar, sir.
Good, good, good. Congratulations.
Sir,
They will be
thank you.
our messengers. They will be our messengers. They will spread this message to all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye, sir. Bye, sir. Bye bye. Bye.